Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shishad Goswami Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktarinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 8th chapter, text 23, actually 22 through 25. This is the wrong verse. Okay, so we'll read 22 and then I'll read 22 and then we'll read 23 together, 24 and 25. Okay. Text 22. Kvachit chiraya nahisila mangalam. Kvachit chiraya nahisila mangalam. Kvachit tatapyastina vidyamayoshaham. Yatro bhayam kutasacho. Supyama mangala samangala kashanakan kshatehimam. Someone may have, translation by Srila Prabhupada, someone may have longevity but not have auspiciousness or good behavior, and someone may have both auspiciousness and good behavior, but the duration of his life is not fixed. Although such demigods as Lord Shiva have eternal life, they have inauspicious habits, like living in crematoriums, and even if others are well qualified in all respects, they are not devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now we can read 23 together. Evam. In this way. Oh yeah, that's right. Evam. Vimrishaya avyabhichari sadgunai varam nija eka ashrayataya aguna ashrayam vavre varam sarvagunai apekshitam Rama Mukundam Nirapeksham Ipsitam Evam Vimrishya Vyabhichari Sadgunar Varam Nijayaksharayatya Gunashrayam Vavre Varam Sarvagunarapekshitam Rama Mukundam Nirapeksham Ipsitam Evam Vimrishya Vyabhichari Sadgunar Dvaram Nijaika Shayataya Gunashrayam gunashrayam Vavrevaram sarva gunarapekshitam Rama Mukundam nirapeksham Evam vimbrishya vyabhichari sadgunar Varam nijaikashayataya ganushayam Vavrevaram sarvagunarapekshitam Rama Mukundam nirapeksham Gunarapekshitam Mamukundam nirapekshitam Apekshitam Vichani Sadgunar Anyone else? Anyone online would like to chant today? Text number 23.
Evam vimrishya vyabhichari sadgunai Varam nijekshayate gunashrayam Bhavre bharam sarvagunai apekshitam Rama Mukundam nirapeksham ipsitam
Mamukundam nirapeksham ipsitam. Anyone else? Okay, we'll continue. Yeah, that's right. This is not easy. Synonyms. Evam, in this way. Vimrishya, after full deliberation. Vyabhichari sadgunai, with extraordinary transcendental qualities. Varam, superior. Nija eka ashrayataya, because of possessing all good qualities without depending on others. Aguna ashrayam, the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Bhavre, accepted. Varam, as a bridegroom. As a bridegroom, excuse me. Sarvagunai, with all transcendental qualities. Apekshitam, qualified. Rama, the goddess of fortune. Mukundam, Anta Mukunda. Nirapeksham, although he did not wait for her. Ipsitam, the most desirable. Translation and commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, in this way, after full deliberation, the goddess of fortune accepted Mukunda as her husband, because, although he is independent and not in want of her, he possesses all transcendental qualities and mystic powers, and is therefore the most desirable. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda is self-sufficient. Since he is fully independent, he was not in want of the support of association of Lakshmi Devi. Nonetheless, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, accepted him as her husband. Text 24, English translation. Approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the goddess of fortune placed upon his shoulders the garland of newly grown lotus flowers, which was surrounded by humming bumblebees searching for honey. Then, expecting to get a place on the bosom of the Lord, she remained standing by his side, her face smiling in shyness. Text 25 in English translation. 1 second. And purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Father of the three worlds, and his bosom is the residence of Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the proprietor of all opulences. The goddess of fortune, by her favorable and merciful glance, can increase the opulence of the three worlds, along with the inhabitants and the directors, the demigods. Purport. According to the desire of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, the Supreme Personality of Godhead made his bosom her residence so that by her glance she could favor everyone, including the demigods and ordinary human beings. In other words, since the goddess of fortune stays in the bosom of Nārāyaṇa, this is bosom. Bosom, right? Like this. Bosom of Nārāyaṇa, not bosom, bosom. She naturally sees any devotee who worships Nārāyaṇa. When the goddess of fortune understands that the devotee is in favor of devotional service to Nārāyaṇa, she is naturally inclined to bless the devotee with all opulences. The karmis try to receive the favor and mercy of Lakshmi, but because they are not devotees of Nārāyaṇa, the opulence is flickering. The opulence of devotees who are attached to the service of Nārāyaṇa is not like the opulence of karmis. The opulence of devotees is as permanent as the opulence of Nārāyaṇa himself. Bosom. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakopatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhube Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunyvari Paschatya Desha Darine. So we are reading this wonderful canto, which is full of amazing incarnations of the Lord. And this chapter 8, is called The Churning of the Milk Ocean. And primarily we see that many different things come out in the scene, which are coming from this ocean that demigods and asuras are churning. And in the beginning we see that actually this, if we look at this whole canto, it teaches, and specifically this pastime with the churning of the ocean, it teaches us that we're completely dependent on Krishna, because in the beginning Krishna comes as under a mountain made of gold, and then he also appeared as Ajita and personally began to churn the ocean, and after this he also comes as kurma to make sure that it's placed and everything is in proper situation, not sinking. So therefore we see that the Lord, and then on top of the mountain is also sitting. So the Lord is up, down, and all sides. He's controlling and supporting and doing everything for us, actually. So this pastime teaches us that we're completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And we should be very humble. In this way we can understand that our ability, although we try, is insignificant. And being humble, accepting this mood of humility, sharanagati, is actually the position of a Vaishnava devotee. And in this way, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us, that we'll be able to chant the holy name incessantly. Incessantly means that, at least from practical understanding, that we'll be attracted by the holy name in such a way that we'll be chanting, that we'll be worshipping the holy name, glorifying the holy name, and spreading the holy name. In all directions, in all places we go. Incessantly. Yeah, means we can't really chant all the time, but we can at least glorify the holy name. Practically speaking, I mean, we can glorify and distribute the holy name to others, at least in this present circumstances. I mean, some can chant the holy name constantly. That's maybe, but at least for majority of people in this age, it's a little bit difficult to chant the holy name constantly. So we need to be engaged in some service like that, in some practical service. So that's the understanding. And if we look at this particular chapter, the churning of the milk ocean, it's really wonderful. I was just reading because I wasn't present, and it gave me such great joy to read this pastime. I'll begin with a little kind of summary of what's going on here, so we can understand. So when Lord Shiva drank the poison, and along with Lord Shiva, also scorpions and poisonous creatures, also the snakes, venomous snakes, they also drink that poison. Now they have that poison. So what happened was Lord Vishnu engaged Lord Shiva in this service to help the humanity get rid of all the poison, all this hala it's called, all this poisonous, you don't call it nectar, but all the poison that came out. And after this, the asuras and the suras, the demigods and the demons, with great vigor, they continued to churn that ocean. And many things came out. And we see that Surabhi cow came out, and she produces yogurt and milk and ghee. And mostly, demons, they didn't want any of this. Because these things are used in yagya. And demons, they don't really... they do perform yagyas, but they're not really interested in doing it often. So they weren't interested. Then after the Surabhi cow, Uchai came out. This great white horse. It's described that it was as white as the moon. So this was generated, and Bali Maharaj desired to possess this horse. Next came the elephant, Airavata. He was generated, and is also white. He had 4 tusks. After this came different elephants, she-elephants and hill-elephants, about 8 of them. Then the manis, the jewels, Kostabha mani and Padmaraga mani. Then the Parijata flower came out, and many other things came. But what is most desirable, at least up to this point, came out of this churning, is Goddess of Fortune, Lakshmi Devi. And when she came, everyone was so attracted. Because Srila Prabhupada describes, or actually the Bhagavatam describes, that she is Bhagavat Para. She is so attractive that she is absolutely inclined to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nārāyaṇa. And if she's inclined to Nārāyaṇa, everyone else wants it. Whatever Krishna wants, everyone else wants. So we see here that the asuras and the demigods, everyone, all wanted to possess, wanted to have the beauty, this exquisite beauty of Lakshmi Devi, or actually wanted to have her beauty, wanted her in her beautiful, glorious complexion. They wanted to possess her. And after this, the king of heaven, Indra, brought a suitable sitting place for Lakshmi Devi, and everyone around offered a garland to her, which was very beautiful. The bumblebees were next to that garland, smelling the garland. and they started to worship, doing an abhishek, bringing water from the Ganges and worshipping Mother Lakshmi in this way. And this scene reminded me of Gaura Arti, actually. How we also worship Lord Chaitanya, give him a place of residence, and all the great devotees come together. They play musical instruments, they chant the holy name, and in this way they worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the great sages perform the bathing ceremony by the authorized scriptures. Then, what's interesting, the clouds in personified form, they started beating various drums. Mridangas, Pranavas, Morajas, Anakas, they blew conchos. And then this combined sound by these instruments was so tumultuous, so beautiful. So like this, we see how Mother Lakshmi is glorified, but what Mother Lakshmi wants, Lakshmi Devi wants, she actually observed, she looked at different entities who gathered together, but what she really wanted is, as I mentioned, Bhagavat Pura, she was inclined to have Nārāyaṇa. And in text 22, and also a few texts before that, she's observing and she's thinking in this way. She's thinking, while walking among the Gandharvas and Yakshasas, she's thinking that someone might have great austerity, but is controlled by something. He's controlled by anger. So although we might be very austere, we're controlled by anger. And then although you might possess knowledge, but you cannot conquer material desires. And then someone might have great personality, but he's not inclined equally towards different living entities. So side by side, there's fortune and misfortune exists in our life. And Lakshmi Devi, you cannot cheat Lakshmi, so she's noticing all these things. Then she says that, or she's thinking, that you might be a religious person, but that's not going to give you liberation. And then you might possess great power, yet you're not able to check the power of time. Someone else may have renounced attachment to the material world, yet he cannot compare it to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is completely free from the influence of the material modes of nature. And as we learn in the Bhagavad Gita, these modes are, they mixed, rajas, tamas, chabibhuya. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, sometimes the mode of passion, ignorance, and one defeats another, like that. There's a competition for the supremacy among the modes of nature. Now in this text 22, which I read, she's thinking in this way that even Lord Shiva, although he has eternal life, he has this inauspicious habit of going to the crematorium. And why Lord Shiva goes to crematorium? Because there's a couple of reasons, but a few reasons why is that he wants to help all the ghastly creatures. He wants to give them an opportunity to be purified, to be engaged in service. But also he wants to be, in some way we can understand that, away from people who are not really searching or looking for Krishna or for worship of Lord Shiva as a great devotee of the Lord. So there's a few reasons that I heard. And in the text 23, Shukadev Goswami continued speaking. In this way, after full deliberation, the goddess of fortune accepted Mukunda. She wanted to have Krishna or Vishnu, and she wanted to have Mukunda as her husband, and she did accept him. Because he is self-sufficient and he's fully independent, he wasn't in want of Lakshmi Devi. So many Lakshmi Devis are worshipping, doing puja to Lord Nārāyaṇa, but Nārāyaṇa is completely neutral. In the Bhagavatam, in the first text, there's Abhigna and Svara, there's two words mentioned. The Supreme Personality of God is fully cognizant and is fully independent. So even in this text, Mahopanishad, it mentions how before anything in this world, even before the world itself, before all the seizable elements, all the subtle gross elements and all living entities, Lord Nārāyaṇa was present. So he is the first creature, or the first living entity, not call him creature, but the first living entity, the supreme living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we were just having a celebration of appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadev. And in this pastime, we can see how the demon Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to be independent like the Supreme Lord, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that pastime proves that although the demon might perform great austerity, he's dependent. He's dependent on even those boons that he received. Those boons were not Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsimhadev still was more powerful, overcame the boons, and he at the end he killed Hiranyakashipu. And Prahlad Maharaj came to Nrsimhadev, and Nrsimhadev was really angry at him. He was devastated in asking. He asked him a question: is what is the source of this power? Why are you so fearless? And Prahlad Maharaj said, "This is the same source as anyone's power. This is coming from Krishna." And then we hear this, that Lord Nrsingadev becomes more frustrated. Oh, sorry, Hiranyakashipu becomes more frustrated. Yeah, and he eventually says that if you, Lord, is all cognizant, is everywhere, as you say, and he's all powerful, then he must be in that pillar. So then he hits the pillar, and Lord Nrsingadev eventually comes out. And what's really interesting is that when Lord Nrsingadev came out of the pillar, Hiranyakashipu is observing. He's looking at him, and he's seeing that his eyes are of molten gold. He has, it's described in the Bhagavatam, he has the deadly teeth and razor-sharp tongue. I mean, when you see that, how are you supposed to feel? And then his body touched the sky. He appeared to be so humongous, so huge. And then his arms resembled flanks of soldiers that were spreading in all directions. I mean, if you see someone like that, how are you supposed to feel? But the funniest thing is that Hiranyakashipu, he thought that I am the greatest demon, so I can conquer him. So he attacked the Lord Nrsingadev first himself. So he went to attack him. And then Lord Nrsingadev captured him. And then he was playing with him. He let him sleep from his hands. Just like the comparison of a cat and mouse. You know, the cat might be playing with the mouse, and that you captured him. He's there. You can do whatever he wants, but because he's playing, he lets him go, and then grabs him again. So after all of this, we see that Hiranyakashipu is devoured, is killed by Lord Nrsingadev. So therefore, the demon, although he might feel like he is all powerful, all strong, and he's the most austere and the greatest, no, it is not so. There's so many places in Srimad Bhagavatam that teach us that factually the Lord is the most powerful. And in text 24, the goddess of fortune placed the garland of newly grown lotus flowers on Nārāyaṇa, approached the Supreme Personality. The goddess of fortune placed upon his shoulders the garland of new grown lotus flowers, which was surrounded by humming bumblebees searching for honey. Then, expecting to get a place of the, how do you say the bosom of the Lord? Bosom of the Lord. She remained standing by his side, her face. No, yeah, she did put the garland on his neck. And then I find that very interesting also that in the 9th chapter, at the few verses ending the chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned how the only qualification for the living entities to worship the Lord or to attain the paramagatim, the supreme destination, is this word vipashitya. Vipashitya means to take shelter, to surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. And it doesn't matter whether we have a high birth, low birth, whether we are as the text mentions, a woman, Vaishya, or Shudra, doesn't matter. We still can attain that destination. And then in text 33, Krishna says, this world is anityam asukam lokam. This world is impermanent. It's miserable. There's no happiness. So therefore, the duty of a saintly, of an intelligent person is to come to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if there's no qualification, he says what to speak of those who are brahmanas, righteous brahmanas, and those who are saintly kings, Raja, Rishis, and the brahmanas. And then in text 34, he explains how to do so. We should engage our mind in thinking of the Lord, become the devotee of our obeisances, and become completely absorbed. And in the commentaries, if we go back to text 33, Srila Prabhupada explains that no one should remain in this material world, temporary material world, full as it is with miseries. One second. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the. This is a hard word for me.
Start saying full and end up with
bosom. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada explains that everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. So in this way, we see that our position is also to strive for the same thing as Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi wants to be always worshipping Nārāyaṇa, and devotees of the Lord also have the same desire. But in this way, of course, we cannot be laying on the chest of Nārāyaṇa like Lakshmi Devi. So our position, as Srila Prabhupada explains, is that we should attach ourselves to this service to the Supreme Personality of God. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of man can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. So in this way we see that we attach ourselves to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as Srila Prabhupada often would say, that devotional service is not different from the Lord. So the Lakshmi Devi, to conclude this little discussion, Lakshmi Devi is the best servant. She's the most qualified. So as she selected Mukunda, we should also select Mukunda. We should also strive for the same thing. And the whole point of this reading Srimad Bhagavatam and of kirtan, of any Krishna conscious gatherings, is to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, to please Him. And if Krishna is pleased, everyone else is pleased. We were in San Jose, but this university, SJSU, State University, and actually the same day I went to the City College, and I met some wonderful people. They allowed us to set up a table inside in this by the student center inside in the building, and we were meeting students. And at some point I went outside. I grabbed a whole stack of books. Sometimes I feel inspired to do so, and just like in old times in Europe, they would grab like the whole big stack of books, And it's just, for me at least, it's so attractive when you carry so many books. And actually, it's something that I realized, that when you carry so many books, you kind of feel some kind of potency from them. And it gives you some inspiration and enthusiasm, And besides, it's heavy to carry, so you gotta you're motivated to distribute them quick, And somehow that intensifies your desire, and somehow it kind of works. And it hopefully continues by the mercy of our Srila Prabhupada and the great acharyas. Yes, our mood is, when we distribute books and when we make or participate in any engagements of Krishna conscious engagements, our mood is to always be in line with the Guru Parampara, with the desire of Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual teachers, our acharyas, and also to check ourselves on our internal motivation, which is very important, whether I am looking for pratishta or puja or any of this unnecessary, unpleasant, subtle things which stumble our devotional practice. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains to Rupa Goswami about the Lata Bij, so he says that there's the Bhakti Lata Bija, and everyone has that little seed of devotion in you inside. It's growing, and it's supposed to reach Goloka Vrindavan, the lotus feet of the Lord. So everyone has a different flower, different size of it. But there's also different weeds that come. And if we water the weeds, then it become problematic. It can you can choke the creeper and stop devotional service, at least for some time. So anyway, what was I going to say? We should check our internal motivations in when we perform the services. It's really essential and important. We should pray for it to be free from pride, free from this worship, free from these things. And of course, provided that we chant everything, the holy name sincerely, and serve in the mood of our Guru Parampara. If we're sincere, like devotees experience problems, but if devotee is sincere, Krishna is sending those problems to guide, to help the devotee, to make sure that his bhakti becomes stronger. So we were at this university, the San Jose State University, and distributed books. And at the end, Ajinat Krishna Prabhu and myself, we going back to the program. They have a nice program right by the university, just right around the corner. And we saw this one guy. He was sitting and I think drinking some kind of tea or something by his apartments where he lives. And he's a really far-out fellow with this long beard, the bald hair, and he had some beads around his neck. And he looked like, like a person who's spiritual, as we say. And Ajinat Krishna Prabhu approached him and he started speaking, asking him, what do you do, And it turns out that he studies behavioral psychology, he does podcasts. He's like a really guy who's out there, meeting people, very social person. And he, right away, he just like almost after us, he came to the program, associated with devotees, took prasadam, and he enjoyed it. He had a great time speaking with Maharaj and asking a lot of questions. So, and then also at City College, I met some nice people. They didn't show up to the program, but they were inquisitive. So in this way, we see that the preaching is benefiting people. They show up, they come to the programs, they're curious. Like yesterday also, I was at Balboa Park and I met a family. The husband is from India, the mother is from an Islamic country, and their daughter, they have one daughter, she's mixed like that, and her name is Maya, and they deliberately named her that, Maya. And the mother, from the Islamic background, she was curious. She was asking me a lot of questions. She read up some things about Lord Vishnu and Krishna, and she was asking me, so who's the origin? I know that you worship one God. So who is God? Is it Vishnu or Krishna? And why is that you worship the deity? Why are there so many demigods? She was asking intelligent questions, and she seemed to be interested. Although she practices Islamic faith, she's a Muslim. But she's not restricting herself to just that scripture. So that's the sign of intelligence. I told her that you actually open-minded. You want to understand what is the conclusive truth of the Vedas, of the scripture of Bhagavad Gita. It's very Bible also. It's very this makes you a more advanced than a typical person who is just restricting himself and really not touching any other things. Because in Vaishnava understanding, we have this ahankara vimudhatma, this false ego, and if we accept some kind of a basis for our understanding, we don't want to be shaken by it, especially if it's not false, but especially if there's more to it. Like we know that there's so much more to learn. In the Vedas, there's so much detailed descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Supreme Abode and all that. So if you know a little bit, you don't, and it feels like it's enough. You don't want to be shaken. You don't really want to be, don't want to know anything extra like that. So in most cases, we see the spiritual practitioners of different faith like that. So that's also the representative or the example of the false ego, that I'm restricting myself just because I'm not willing to know more. So to get free from the false ego, we should give up this mentality of abhignya and swarat within ourselves, and we should understand that we're not the doers. And even if we're practicing devotional service, spiritual life, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, if we go out to serve the deities and distribute books, prasadam, cook, anything, organize festivals, programs, it's not that our efforts are very significant. Krishna is actually completely beyond all this, behind all this, actually on his, upon his desire and power, everything's being carried out. So that is the proper understanding of humility, is that we only try to place ourselves amidst this merciful Sankirtan, yagya, merciful opportunity to perform yagya, and that's as our duty. We're trying to do that, but ultimately the result and the quality of practice is in many ways up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as long as we're sincere, as long as we really want to advance in Krishna consciousness, and we try to do so by following the authoritative process, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, Krishna is seeing our efforts and he will help us. But if we are not sincere, if we get carried away, then in this way, Krishna will try to, if we are offensive, stop us from being engaged in devotional service or teach us a lesson like that. So Vaishnavas always experience that learning, and it's we feel very much jubilant and happy, and then we feel the separation. Always like that. That's a learning experience. It's something that we should expect from spiritual life. It's not always blissful, not always happy, but there's a lot of internal work requires for you to advance and please Krishna. So thank you so much. This is 8:35. Are there any questions, commentaries, corrections?
Well, I don't have a commentary, but I might have a comment.
Okay, comment, yeah. My improper English.
It's okay. You began, near the beginning of the class, you talked about chanting incessantly.
Yeah.
How that, you're trying to interpret that as not literally incessantly, right? But I think it appears often enough, and I remember reading, I forget exactly where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or maybe it's in Harinam Chintamani, that really, practically speaking, to chant incessantly, it has to go inside. Mm-hmm. In other words, as you're doing everything, whatever you're doing, it has to be devotional service, obviously, and the chanting is going on in your mind. If you're not doing it outside. But that can only happen when you're careful not to get involved in things that are going to distract you, that are going to take your mind away from Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So it's a very advanced platform, but it's the recommendation.
Yeah.
That we always, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
It's a really good point, because I missed, I didn't fully speak about this. Incessantly means that at some point you internalize the chant. It's just happening in your heart, and you're chanting all the time, even though you're not vibrating it through your lips. But in the heart, the vibration still happens. It still takes place. So that's an advanced platform, and it's easy to forget about this because you're not there. But devotees like Devotee Prabhu can always remind us, because that's what they're experiencing in spiritual life. So thank you for this addition, Devotee Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Well.
Thank you, Dvijamani Prabhu. You're talking about how Lakshmi Devi, she was describing how someone can undergo great austerity and knowledge, but they cannot conquer lusty desire. Someone may have full knowledge of religion, but not kind to all living entities. The list goes on. And then I found interesting that towards the end, she said, even if others are well qualified in all respects, they are not devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even if they have all these qualities, if they're not devotees, then what is the use? And I was kind of relating it to King Chitraketu when he saw Lord Shiva and Parvati, embracing, and he was kind of criticizing them. And then after Parvati cursed the king, he got down on his airplane, and then he folded his hands and said, thank you for the curse. And then both Lord Shiva and Parvati, they were astonished, like, look at his behavior. Yeah. And then Lord Shiva, he said something. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Lord Shiva said, my dear beautiful Parvati, have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnavas? Being the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, they are great souls and not interested in any kind of material happiness. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nārāyaṇa, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Yeah. So it just reminded me of, wonderful qualities that we should try to develop, as Vaishnavas.
Yeah. Yeah, and we see that we don't really need to strive for any separate qualities as long as we are trying to be on the path of bhakti. These qualities will be manifested within ourselves. As long as we just chant the holy name. The holy name is very merciful. All the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sarva Shaktis, they are all within this holy name. So the holy name is described as the wish-fulfilling gem. And so whatever desires, spiritual desires we have will be fulfilled. And also material desires, if you have that inclination, the holy names also fulfills the desires. But as Vaishnavas, as in this wonderful example of Chitraketu, yeah, we're not striving for anything but a pure devotional service, Ananya Bhakti. And even if someone curses us, there must be some kind of a meaning. There must be a meaning. I might not understand this, but I should accept it and I should learn from it. Just like an example of Chitraketu when he was cursed by Parvati, like that. So that is our mood of humility. Anyone else would like to add or comment? Maybe Bhakti Chat has something.
Hare Krishna. So this comes up quite a bit. You talked a little bit about the competition of the modes of material nature over somebody. You also talked about Lord Krishna's control over someone's activities. So there's, all this control over somebody, but there's also that smidgen of free will. How does that always play into the material modes competition or Lord Krishna's control over what we do?
Yeah. So the question is, how do we utilize our free will in regards to becoming free from the modes of nature, so we're not affected by them? That's the question?
Well, that's a good one too, but
yeah, the understanding is that
but also just how our minute free will plays into those different factors.
Yeah. Well, there's a verse that concludes the chapter number 14 in the Bhagavad Gita that glorifies the devotional service as a way to be free from the modes of nature. Mam chayo vibhicharana bhakti yogena sevate. So by bhakti yogena sevate, it is possible to conquer the influence of the three modes of nature. And like I said, that we only endeavor, and our attempts to participate in devotional service are not perfect. So, but as long as a devotee is sincere, and as long as he wants to do that, as long as he takes a risk for Krishna, like Srila Radhanath always often says, that devotional service begins when we come out of our comfort zone. So if you come out of your comfort zone and you take risks for Krishna, you're not just unconsciously going through the practices, chanting, hearing, you're actually trying, you're making the best. Like Srila Prabhupada once received a letter from a disciple, and the disciple was saying, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, I am so unqualified, I have so many anarthas, so many bad qualities, please help me, Srila Prabhupada. I'm struggling so much, but I want to be Krishna conscious." I'm paraphrasing, but that's the whole point. And you see that I think Srila Prabhupada was, what is this, who's this follower of Srila Prabhupada who was Mayavadi? What is his name? That would go on walks with Srila Prabhupada often in India? Huh? No. He's an Indian body? Dr. Patel, yeah. He was right there next to Srila Prabhupada at that time. And because they were speaking about how something in regards to impersonal understanding. And then Dr. Patel is a Brahmana. He was born in India, he was well trained, he knows how to perform all kinds of different austerities. It's easy for him, it's natural and easy for him, this lifestyle, right? So he can take up Krishna consciousness and advance easily, at least from this point of view. But those Western disciples are struggling, but they are so sincere, they want to really grasp Krishna's lotus feet and His mercy, and they writing the Srila Prabhupada such letters. So you see, this Srila Prabhupada was saying to Dr. Patel, how sincere, and you're not really taking the full advantage. So in this way, if we embody this mood, of course there has to be someone within our sangha who can teach by example, by the steady and example of surrender. But at least our attempt, if there's no one near ourselves, we can study the words of the acharyas, the wonderful works, and the example of Srila Prabhupada, and we can try to strive for that and make sure that within our internal spiritual life, within our chanting, we desire that, we want that. So Krishna always reciprocates with that frail in such a way that if desire is sincere, if it's strong, Krishna will eventually help a devotee. There's nothing else that can remedy this, nothing else that can help us. And the holy name and Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda are so merciful, Parama Karuna, most merciful. It is described that when the insects and birds see them, see the power of the holy name, they begin to cry, and even the stones are melting like that. So this is the mercy of Lord Gauranga and Nityananda. So we chant the holy name, worship the holy name, and distribute the holy name, and the holy name, of course, reciprocates. Because if you're chanting 16 rounds every day, there's some kind of taste, there's some kind of mercy that you're experiencing already. But that could always, anandam buddhi bhardanam, that ocean of taste and nectar is increasing. So it's increasing as long as we, again, cultivate proper Krishna consciousness and water the bhakti lata bitch and not the weeds. So that's the understanding. Thank you for your attention. This was my attempt with my poor English to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. Hopefully you allow me to continue. Yeah. Granthar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Samveda Bhakta ki jai.